July 1930 marked one of the darkest periods in the history of the Weimar Republic, as the collapse of democracy accelerated at an unprecedented rate. This was the rise of Hitler. In a move that shocked the public, the Reichstag was dissolved by presidential decree, a scene that reflected the depth of the political crisis gripping the country. Newspapers and the working class accused the government of mocking the constitution and making light of the suffering of millions exhausted by unemployment and economic collapse. 4 previous parliaments had failed to fulfill their role and were dissolved, while Chancellor Heinrich Brüning ruled with extraordinary powers granted to him by President Hindenburg. It was clear to everyone that the parliamentary system was crumbling, and that the way was gradually opening for a new force poised to fill the void. This was the path that would lead to the rise of Adolf Hitler. In this atmosphere, thick with suspicion and fear, Hitler continued his tours and fiery speeches in Thuringia and Bavaria. His sights were set on the universities, on the young people he saw as the fuel of the coming revolution. In speeches lasting for hours, he spoke of the battle for liberation and the necessity of uniting spirit and body into the national body, asserting that the people would soon be forced to make a historic decision. Who was right, us or the others? This was a clear indication of a new political crisis looming, a crisis Hitler was determined to exploit with all his political and rhetorical skill. But the German state, though weakened, was not silent. Prussia, the largest and most powerful state, tightened its grip on the Nazi Party, issuing decrees prohibiting civil servants from supporting or joining the party, which it considered, along with the communists, an armed threat to the Republic. Later, other states followed suit. In Baden, any teacher who was a Nazi was barred from working. These measures were supported by the liberal press and Catholic circles, while the far right attacked them as a blatant violation of the Constitution. However, the danger did not come only from outside, but also from within the Nazi Party itself. At the height of the political conflict, the party fractured with the defection of one of its most prominent leaders. Otto Strasser, a representative of the movement's left wing. Strasser accused Hitler of abandoning revolutionary principles and selling the party out to capitalists, objecting to Hitler's alliances with traditional right-wing parties. Hitler responded harshly: immediate expulsion and a complete ban on all Strasser's publications. His brother Gregor remained within the party, but the rift caused by the defection would forever be indicative of the internal conflicts that lay hidden beneath the rise of Nazism. Meanwhile, the issue of the Free Military Freikorps resurfaced. These paramilitary groups emerged after World War I and were implicated in hundreds of political assassinations between 1919 and 1924 during what became known as the Wimmy trials. Between 1920 and 1925, Germany granted a series of amnesties to tens of thousands of participants in coups and acts of violence following World War I. These included thousands involved in the 1920 Cap coup, communist conspirators in 1921, and approximately 29,000 people in 1925, among them members of the Freikorps and police officers. However, the amnesties did not extend to those who had committed murder. This was expected to change with the vote scheduled for July 2, 1930, to grant amnesty to those killed in defence of the German homeland, with the exception of the assassination of government ministers. Passing the law in the Reichstag seemed difficult, as it required an overwhelming majority, and the alliances between the Communists and Social Democrats with other parties were unclear. Nevertheless, the Reichstag surprised everyone by passing the law by a vote of 291 to 135, with the support of the government, the Nazis and the Communists, while the Social Democrats formed the main opposition. The Communists' support, despite the few who personally benefited from it, was the result of political pressure on party leaders, including its chairman Ernst Thälmann, who faced charges of treason and incitement to rebellion. There were rumours that these charges would be suspended in exchange for supporting the law. Although the law passed the Reichstag, the Federal Council, Reichsrat, blocked its implementation by vetoing it. Overriding the veto was not easy, and this temporarily halted the pardon for the murderers. At the same time, the financial crisis was putting immense pressure on the government after plans to raise taxes and contributions from the wealthy and cut welfare programs failed. On July 16th, Parliament rejected the proposal by a vote of 256 to 193, with all major parties voting against it. This prompted Chancellor Brüning to invoke his powers under Article 48 to issue presidential decrees, which were later overturned by the Reichstag. This forced him to dissolve Parliament under Article 25, revealing the fragility of German democracy. These events also revealed divisions within the traditional parties, particularly the National People's Party, DNVP, which saw 25 members resign after voting with the government. This allowed opposition parties, such as the Social Democrats, Communists and Nazis, to rise at the expense of previous governing coalitions. As the snap elections approached on September 14, 1930, crucial questions arose about Germany's future. Who would come to power? What reforms would Brüning implement by presidential decree during the transition period? Would other states, such as Baden and Prussia, join the fight against the Nazis and Communists? And would Germany be forced to draft a new constitution, as Brüning had suggested? Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.